James Carter sat hunched over on the cold wooden bench in Lincoln Park, the chill of a late November morning seeping through the thin fabric of his jacket. He gazed blankly across the empty plaza, his breath visible in ragged puffs. The world hurried by business people with briefcases, joggers in bright athletic gear, parents walking children to school, but James remained invisible. Most assumed he was just another man down on his luck, another casualty of city life. Yet James had once been someone else entirely. A decorated Marine, wounded in combat zones thousands of miles from here. A newlywed with dreams of engineering school. A father to a daughter he named Leah. But trauma, heartbreak, and a sequence of bad decisions had stripped all that away. 2 years ago, after returning from his second deployment in Iraq, James had tried to settle into civilian life. But the nightmares began explosions in his dreams, orders barked in his sleep, and the deep loneliness after his wife filed for divorce. He lost his home when he fell behind on rent. Eventually, the apartment was repossessed. Leah had stayed with her mother, and James spiraled. He found himself drifting from shelter to street corner, collecting aluminum cans, drifting farther from human connection. He nearly let go of hope completely. Until the day. Emily Rodriguez was a third-year law student at University of Illinois, Chicago. She lived on the south side and rode the Blue Line into downtown every day. Passing through Lincoln Park was a routine, her eyes always scanning ahead at midday, to avoid slowing for anyone. But on that November morning, something stopped her. Maybe it was the uniform fading under his coat, Marine tattoo peeking from his collar, or the way he looked past the present, lost. She slowed down, then walked over and asked quietly, "Sir, have you eaten today?" James looked up, startled. He wiped at his eyes with rough hands. "No," he said, "not yet." Without hesitation, Emily offered, "Let me get you something." In the nearby bakery, she bought a turkey sandwich, apple, and bottled water. She returned and didn't just hand it over. She sat down beside him on the bench. He flinched at the closeness, unused to proximity. Emily placed the food gently in his lap. "I'm Emily," she said, offering her hand. "Can I sit with you for a bit?" He looked at her, pale, sharp-faced, determined to help. He hesitated, then shook her hand. "I'm James." They sat eating in silence for a few minutes. Emily watched as James devoured the sandwich, slowly gaining color in his cheeks. Finally, he began to speak. James told her about Iraq missiles overhead, the screams through the sandstorm, the friend he couldn't reach after the explosion, about his return, the celebrated hero's welcome that felt hollow, then leaving therapy groups that made him feel more broken than before. "I couldn't sleep," he told her, "and inside I felt empty." The words were low. For the first time this year he felt seen. Emily listened quietly. She had lost her own grandfather, a few years ago, a former Air Force officer, and felt a personal sorrow in his voice. She asked about his life before the street. He said he studied engineering, had plans to build bridges one day. A small tear tracked down his dusty cheek. Then he hesitated. "Why are you doing this?" he asked, incredulous. "Why care about someone you don't know?" Emily paused, then answered honestly, "Because you matter. James, you deserve to be seen, to have a chance." He nodded, speechless. They parted with a handshake again, hers firm and warm, his grip light but intentional. That evening, Emily couldn't stop thinking about James. She thought of his quiet dignity and the life he'd once had. With his permission, she posted a picture of the empty bench, the sandwich wrapper, and a blurred-out image of James's back. Caption, "He served our country." Who's serving him now? She tagged a local veteran outreach nonprofit in a nearby shelter. Within hours, the post began to spread. Hundreds of likes, shares, comments. Others added stories. "That's my uncle." "My neighbor." It became more than a bench story. It became a conversation about the invisible among us. A local news station contacted Emily for an interview. The next morning, James woke up to a tap on the shoulder. He squinted at a reporter. "Mr. Carter?" Her voice was professional but kind. He nodded, speechless. They filmed, capturing him accepting help. Soon after, a shelter made room available just for him. A veterans organization helped him apply for ID, benefits, and expedited housing. A therapist volunteered to take him pro bono. A generous donor paid for a new coat, boots, and a hot meal every day. James's social worker found him a part-time job at a local community center helping with cleanup and administrative tasks. It wasn't much, but it was enough to feel useful again. Then came the message from out of the blue. "Emily," it read, "my name is Leah Carter. I think James is my father. Can you help me find him?" Emily's heart pounded. She showed James the message. He stared at the screen in disbelief, tears welling up. "I have a daughter," he said. "She's writing to me." They arranged a call. Leah, in her mid-20s, paused before video unmuted. The silence crackled with emotion. "This is you," she whispered. "I thought I lost you," he said. She replied, "You didn't, I just lost you." They talked for hours about her childhood, his regrets, the pain they both carried. She lived in Ohio. He lived in Chicago. They agreed to meet. A month later, the small room provided by the shelter became a place of punctuation in this story for hope. Emily had helped furnish it. New sheets, a simple desk, a mirror. The walls were freshly painted in warm taupe. On a sunny afternoon, Leah arrived. She stood at the foot of his bed, hesitant, carrying a small bouquet. James saw her, eyes swimming. He stood on unsteady legs. They moved toward each other. When they embraced, everything else disappeared. Tears, trembling, laughter, sobs. Emily watched quietly from the door. Later, they sat in the center's common room with cups of tea. Leah asked about the tattoo. James told her what each stripe meant. Leah showed James photos from her childhood pictures he'd never seen. He spoke of regrets, how he convinced himself she was better off without him, how shame turned into absence. She told him, "I missed you every single day." The world felt colder. This wasn't fairy tale reconciliation. It was cautious, fragile healing. Counseling sessions joined parents' therapy and family therapy. Slowly, doors reopened. Within 3 months, James had a small apartment, 2 rooms, a Murphy bed, a kitchenette. He had steady employment through the Veteran Community Center. His job, outreach coordinator for homeless veterans. His tasks, connect people to resources, act as a liaison, lead peer support groups. He earned a modest salary, but wealth wasn't what mattered anymore. He'd gone from invisible to invaluable. Emily visited often. Her legal clinic got interested in his case. Together, they hosted free legal aid workshops for veterans navigating paperwork. Leah drove down every other weekend. They explored the city, shared meals, rebuilt years lost. James's nightmares didn't vanish overnight, but the nightly calls with Leah, texting with Emily, and regular therapy sessions made them fade. He reconnected with other veterans from his platoon through virtual support groups, rediscovered faith and communal support. Once he told Leah, "I feel like I'm building a bridge again, only this time to people who feel like I did." Leah smiled. "Papa, I helped you find hope again. Now you're giving it to others." Over the next 6 months, James's presence was transformative. He shared his story at community events. He wrote letters to hometown newspapers urging support for veteran housing. At the local center, he helped dozens of veterans reunite with estranged families, secure jobs, and reestablish housing. He also attended Emily's graduation. She received her law degree. Proud, he hugged her tight. When she walked across the stage, he seemed taller, not because of posture, but presence. Emily gave a speech at the center's volunteer event. James reminded all of us that one act of kindness can echo in ways you can't imagine. The nonprofit built a mural on the wall near the park bench. It featured a sandwich in one hand, a handshake in the other, with the words, "You matter. Don't forget that." Underneath, for James and hundreds of others. Nearly 2 years after that morning in the park, James and Leah sit together at a small Detroit coffee shop, talking about future plans. Leah is applying to grad school. James is exploring a vocational certificate in social work. Together they're planning a podcast, Second Chances, sharing stories of veterans who rebuilt their lives. In the city, Emily has launched a pro bono legal initiative. Inspired specifically by James's journey, she partners with veteran shelters to offer monthly legal clinics. James often reflects on that single moment, the sandwich. The handshake, the choice to be kind. Without it, he feels his story would have remained incomplete. But with it, he got a second chance at life, at family, at purpose. Sometimes the smallest act of sandwich. A handshake brings someone back from the shadows of their past into the light of possibility. That day, James Carter found both his daughter and his reason to live again. Emily found her purpose, and together, they remind us all, you can't always save a life, but you can always honor it.